Hello and welcome back. This time we are going back in time to 2009 and we are looking around Forbidden Valley. So one of the first things I noticed was this interesting looking sign. We've got this sort of rounded edged capital red writing, this light grey colour and a load of rust. I was trying to work out what that is actually themed to that was in the park at the time. Now, as we go on over to the left here, this is actually the location of Nemesis Sub-Terra today. And it's really weird looking at this section as a couple of like temporary outdoor attractions. So we have trampolines. I'm sure that says £2 and I'm sure it says 3 minutes. It could say 5 though, but £2 for 3 minutes is crap. And then there is also a climbing tower. But it was at this point that I got a bit distracted by the cat. I am an absolute crazy cat lady. I love them so much. And to just see a cat just relaxed wandering around towers is amazing. And I wonder where it lived and how far it had to walk to get there. But anyway, we have the lava lump exhilarating challenge. And it either says £2 or £3. Not too sure there. But yeah, they did have a sort of climbing wall at one point. And I wonder, that's the kind of attraction I feel like they could probably bring back one day. We've got the Edge interactive games, like how the E is backward there. I've looked at this loads already from doing this video and I've only just noticed that that second E was the wrong way around. So you've got standard many towers. Claw grabbers, looks like more of a techie prizes over there. Then we've got teddies or monkeys, something like that. What I'm noticing around here as well is all this space and just random lumps of rock. We've got the smoking area there with that S sign you just saw. But look at all this, it's just nothing really. And I can understand why some of this area was then used for Sub-Terra, because there's just nothing there and all the rocks just make it look like blank space. We've got a quite nice little toilets and gloomy wood sign. Sorry, that was a bit brief. But then we have got a bit more of a look at some of the claw grabbers. And this is one thing that I wish towers would do. I think they're still guilty of this today in 2025, is having quite a lot of machines with non sort of related prizes in. You know, if they had monster type prizes in the arcade machines near Nemesis, that would make sense. Or kind of spooky ones nearer to the Curse at Alton Manor, that would make sense. But random ones like Hello Kitty, that doesn't. And here we have the big gun, which, is this a helicopter now? I should know. Isn't this the helicopter now? I'm sure it is. But we just saw it smoking. And when you look at the detail on this gun, it is pretty awesome. Also, can you see where they've blurred a couple of sections? AI must have recognised it, or something must have recognised it as a face. Now here we have got something I never noticed before, but this is old Thunderlooper queue line leading up to where the blade is or was. So you can see it all looks a bit dishevelled and really overgrown. Now this was in 2009, like I said before, and that's why that fencing actually doesn't look too bad, because I think at this point it was just less than 15 years in 2009 since the Thunderlooper closed. Something like that. It was no more than 15. So we have a lot of sort of interesting different themed signage here. Sky rides up there, but look at this. These look really cool. And yeah, they do look pretty in keeping, I have to say. We've got a 13 advert here. I think it said Ride into the Unknown, if I remember rightly. And then we have Nemesis Donuts. Now this sign is pretty cool. You can see we've got all the refill cups and you see the donut sign down there. If they did not sell them on for someone to put on their wall in their kitchen, I'll be bitterly disappointed. Just imagine a Nemesis themed donut sign on your wall would be so awesome. And I didn't actually realise that there was a Burger King here at the time. I really missed the sort of proper franchises of Burger King and McDonald's at places like Alton Towers. I remember eating KFC popcorn chicken there. Another little look at the old Thunderlooper queue line there. It's just mad. I don't know what it looks like now. I'm going to have to try and have a proper look. But you see this bit of really light coloured fencing just there on the right, and them 2 stones that we just saw. That must have been the entranceway, and maybe there was a sign above it, I'm not too sure. We've got a sales and information kiosk. Now what I love about this is that on the sign it says, "A million apologies, this booth is sleeping." I just love little nuances like that. And we have a fast track advert, £8 fast track Scream, £5 fast track Adventurer. I'm assuming they are prices per ride, but I actually can't remember. I don't know what the rules were back in 2009. Also just pointed out a fire exit sign, which has been probably a little too themed in because you can barely see it with all the rust paint. I was also a bit curious about the pathway here because it's like red and grey and patchy. We've got some really cool signs up here for forbidden treats, and it looks like they sold refill cups. What a surprise. Sweet treats, slushes, and I swear that's a cigarette machine at the back, just sort of on the left. And Chupa Chup lollies, don't forget them. But yeah, I love the theming around here, I really do. Interesting sort of greeny, sort of turquoisey, light turquoise colour on that pipework, and then the rusty metal. Don't know how well that goes. And then we have the blade in the former Thunderlooper pit, hence that sort of long space. I wonder what they're going to do with that next. And also notice the bin there, how they blurred out the word litter. It is interesting how this sort of automatic kind of editing works on software like this. We have a couple of outdoor games currently closed as of the date of this footage. We've got Ripsaw's Rampage. Not really sure what you did here. Something, I'm sure it says £2 for 3 balls, whether you knocked something down. I'm not really sure. But then on the left, we have got another Ripsaw themed attraction. This was Ripsaw Revenge. So it looked like 1 ball or 2 balls for £2 or £3 or something. I'm not very good at reading, but it is. I am generally good at reading, but it's kind of hard in some of these older shots. We've got some more old signage there, which mentions Ugland, which I do really miss. And then we make our way up to Ripsaw. Now, this was a really cool sort of entrance and signage to the area. And just look how much of a crowd there is. And I know some of this would have been people in the queue, but it was such a statement, this. I remember seeing it sort of hazily. Even though I only visited the park a couple of times in my teens, I do hazily remember the sort of drill and people spinning around and screaming, and I remember the water jets. And just look at this theme in it. It's amazing. We've got fish and chips. We're going to take another little look at some of the signage for that a bit later. And then as you come around, see even the cafe bar there, all themed in, but just look how awesome it looks. You can also just about see Ripsaw mid-spin. It just looks brilliant. And then over here we have a somewhat themed in drying machine. They did try with the colours, but I think it looks pretty cool. £2. I swear they're like £4 now, the ones that are for Toxicator. You've got the refresh. And something I thought was odd was these sort of patchy bits of fencing. Didn't quite make sense as to why it was there. You can see the mushroom tours, or I can never remember if it's mushroom or shroom tours. You can see in here we've got hot drinks, cakes, sandwiches. It's just your normal sort of cold takeout really. But also, how massive is this umbrella? That is the biggest parasol I've ever seen. Honestly. We've got mutant racers. Don't really know what that was, but whatever it was closed. And you can just see in the background there the Daisy monorail, which as of Jewel days was sitting abandoned with windows smashed up behind what is now the Curse. I think it might still be there. It was just left there abandoned really. So it might still be in situ. And we've got signage for Air. And the Air shop. It's really weird seeing it say the Air shop at the top. And I have Et in here as a roller coaster restaurant. Don't remember going in here as the shop. But when you sort of look in, you can see we've got some teddy bears, what looks like some lanyards or medals possibly, because I know at one point they did medals. I remember someone I went with years ago when I was a young teen got an Oblivion one. It looks like they've got bottles and something else with, looks like Alton Towers, the Alton Towers logo. It's also really odd seeing this kind of, I know it's not quite futuristic, but with that kind of like sky blue air theming, to then see random bits of rock near some of the signs and things just looks a bit odd to me. But it is quite a cool track to see because it's all really twisty and it sort of flows really nice, I think. But to get so close to it as well is pretty awesome. So I do really like the layout of it. Wish it was a bit longer as a ride. I've only ever ridden it as Galactica actually, but as a Galactica I do wish it was longer. The Street View cyclist also decided to go down the accessibility entrance, so you can see down there. And what I love is the really clever wording. The air gates at the station, they are air gates, but of course the ride was called Air, so the air gates were called Air Gate 1, Air Gate 2, etc. And then we're just back over here. And then it was just time to go round and see where Air really interacts with the public. What I also think is interesting is it can't be that fast a ride at these points if there's no netting or anything protecting guests, which there normally is, and there is underneath parts of Rita, of course. The portal is there, as is the hotel entrance. Well, it's there today. It's not in that photo. And they actually got one of the ride vehicles there. I keep wanting to call them craft and say mid-flight like they word it today with Galactica, but I should try not to in this video. But just look how near you get. It's so cool. And also random, but really nice planting and stuff. But when you look down here, do you see what I mean? Where you've got all these little bits of rock work, but then you've got the air theming with like the silver and the blue and the swirl. And to me, it doesn't quite go, but it doesn't go with Galactica either today. I've also always been really confused by that little like hole on the left hand side where, like, what are you meant to do with that? Can someone just crouch in it? I don't know. That little pit in that rock just looked really odd to me. But heading sort of back on ourselves a little bit, we have got, see, there you are. There the portal is today, and you've got the hotel guest entrance. Don't know if it was used as one at this time, as it was closed there. Now over here we've got this sort of strange kind of slightly tiered section and what looks like a little mini bus shelter and a load of tables and chairs. Whether that was a quick serve little zone at one point, whether it actually did have some purpose at any point, it must have done really. But then we're starting to see some of our first signs of Nemesis as well, but more on that in a second. We have got Air here right under the lift hill, which I think is such a cool view, but I swear you can't do that today. I've never walked under there, but I don't remember seeing it as a public path with people under it when I've ridden it in the last couple of years. But in this footage you could, or at least this guy could. And then we're starting to see a bit more Nemesis, but let's stop and look at this fish and chips sign. Don't know why I was so distracted by this. Pie looks great. The chips do not look like chip shop chips though. That's my only coup. That's my only sad thing about it. You've got the tour bus, again, same location, but back then you could see into it, and I swear the old seats were still in there. And I must admit, I do like the look of it today, but additionally, I never experienced Nemesis in its original format, so I can't really comment on the look, because I didn't see it in person. Sorry for that really annoying sort of step there into the next bit, but again, another great ride with lots of interaction, and it does look pretty cool. I wanted to focus on some of theming also. Apologies if I keep saying pretty cool too much, but considering this ride opened in '94, the theming, I mean, even if I were to see this today, is pretty impressive. We've got the track sort of merging and blurring into the creature. You've got chains and material coming out of its pores. I don't really know what to call them holes. You've got what looks like veins and muscle tissue and all of this, and it looks like it could be pulsating even though it is like 2D. it does have a lot of life to it, I think. And something else you've got, I think the eye is roughly around here today. And then under there, you've got this little red door. I don't know if there is still a door there today. I'll have to go and look. And then you've got some old theming in this section. And my memory's so bad at the moment for some reason. I can't remember if there's reborn theming now. And we've got red waterfalls back when they were still allowed to be red. We have clear water now, so we do have waterfalls, but we just don't have the red version. I mean, anything that's better for the animals is fine by me. And then just look at all this mangle of track. And I'm not saying mangle in a bad way, but it is just awesome when you just see all this twisty track. And they really make use of the space really well. And obviously the pits that they excavated and everything else. We have more red water and another waterfall down there. And we've got more track that becomes the monster. So I can't really decide if I prefer the appearance of old Nemesis or reborn Nemesis. And I can't really comment because I, like I said, never experienced the first one and saw it properly. Not that I can remember anyway. And then just looking out onto this part of the valley is awesome. And we've got the monorail right above us as well, but just lots of random bits of rock everywhere. I mean, around here it makes a bit more sense because it's forming like the top of where you go down the stairs and things. Who knows? But the rocks before didn't make sense with all that blank space, which then became Sub-Terra. We've got refills here. So the refill cups back in 2009 were £6. Very, very reasonable. Can't remember I feel like £15 comes to mind, but I've never done the refill cups and I probably never will because it's just soft drinks. If I could vary it with other things, and I would, but I don't want to drink fizzy all day. Wouldn't mind a bit for the energy. We've got all the fish and chips seating, and this looks like a perfect day for eating fish and chips outside as well. And we've got this awesome Forbidden Valley sign with an advert for Scarefest, but sadly I couldn't see any further sort of the details of it. And we've got Nemesis, the world's most intense ride experience, minimum height 1.4. This ride is not for expectant mothers or those with heart, neck or back problems. No something or video cameras beyond this point. Something. Lost items will be retrieved at the end of the day. And something about the head and shoulder restraints at the bottom. So people with a large upper body may be uncomfortable. It said something to that effect. We've got the old signage for the blade, which it feels like only yesterday that it was there. And yeah, what is going to happen to this area? I would love to be a fly on the wall and know the actual long-term plans, but I do also love hearing people's opinions and rumours and theories. It's all part of the hype that I do quite like about the park. Even though there are issues at the minute, I remain hopeful that good things are coming because being positive's good, right? So over here, we've got another view of the valley. So apart from the colour of the track and the signage, of course, it's not really changed a huge amount. But what is weird is seeing the single rider queue. And it's also messing with my brain a bit because you were queuing for the single rider queue from this way, but then it confused me as to how you actually got into the station. So I'm not quite sure how that worked. And like I say, I can't really remember. Then it says when the fast track entrance is closed, please use the exit. So it looks like it's closed at that point. But that must be why there's, for some reason, in that middle section, a load of random pathway. Nowadays, but back then it was used for fast track and single rider. And we've got all this sort of mangled metal and bits and bobs and what looks like a mini version of the track, which is pretty cool. Bits of pipework, more chains, what looks like old bike wheels or something at the top, but you know, old trailer wheels, something like that. And then you've got this barricaded but open section. Now, does this actually go anywhere? I can't remember. Or is this a back of house section? If you know, please do enlighten me. And then as we make our way out, I turned back just to see the sort of portal, if you like, or the entranceway for Nemesis with the big sign, and that's it. So thank you very, very much for watching / listening, and I will see you next time.